Just a quick heads up. While this podcast dives into real crime stories and touches on psychological aspects, we're not licensed psychologists or mental health professionals. All insights shared are based on research, public sources, and personal interpretation meant for educational purposes only. So please take them with a grain of curiosity, not clinical advice. It was a quiet afternoon in Springfield, Missouri. Just another winter day. Kids walked home from school laughing, unaware that a predator was lurking just blocks away. Then, in a split second, a little girl was snatched off the street in broad daylight. The man who took her wasn't a stranger in a shadowy alley. No, he was someone parents trusted, a school employee, a coach. And what he did next would shatter a community forever. Welcome to Crime Alley Documentaries, where we pull back the curtain on some of the darkest crimes. In this episode, we bring you the tragic, haunting story of a little girl who trusted the wrong stranger, and a predator who had been hiding in plain sight for years. February 18th, 2014. 4:30 p.m. 10-year-old Hailey Owens, sunshine in a bottle, 4th grader, smart, bright-eyed. She loved animals, drawing, and playing soccer with her friends. On that Tuesday afternoon, Hailey was just 2 blocks from home, 2 blocks from safety, walking back from a friend's house. The sun was still up, kids were still out. Then, a pickup truck pulled up beside her. She was just steps from safety when a gold Ford Ranger pickup slowed beside her. Inside, a predator. He leaned out. He asked Hailey for directions. And then, without hesitation, he reached out and grabbed her, shoved her into his car, and sped off. Witnesses would later say they saw a hand reach out, a struggle, and then silence. One neighbor scrambled to chase the truck, screaming as the pickup truck sped away, but it was too late. Hailey was gone. Another eyewitness frantically jotted down the license plate number, and one neighbor jumped in a vehicle and followed until the truck eluded him. They called 911 and police moved fast, but not fast enough. The Amber Alert blurred across Missouri. Every parent's worst nightmare was unfolding. The license plate number led police to Jim and Regina Wood, who informed them that their son Craig Wood was the primary driver of that vehicle. And as police scrambled for clues, they made a chilling discovery. The suspect wasn't some unknown monster. He was a man who worked with kids every single day. Craig Wood, a teacher's aide and football coach, polite, quiet. The kind of guy you'd never suspect. But behind his front door, behind the mask of normalcy, was evil. Think about it. Craig Wood coached kids. He high-fived them in the hallway. He was supposed to protect them. So how did no one see the monster beneath? Within hours, cops closed in on Craig Wood's home. His truck matched the description. His face was caught on surveillance, and when they kicked down his door, they found something unspeakable. Hailey's body, stuffed in 2 garbage bags within plastic storage containers in the basement of the house. She had been raped. There were marks on her wrists indicating that at some point she had been tied up, and a single gunshot to the back of her head. The coroner would later say she died quickly, but not before enduring unspeakable suffering. Inside the home, investigators found even more darkness. Detectives uncovered Wood's digital trail, child pornography, searches for how to kidnap a girl, They found written sexual fantasies involving young girls, a handwritten script of how to carry out a perfect abduction, and chillingly, photos of girls who had attended the same school where he worked. And Hailey was his target that day. There is video footage of Wood disposing of Hailey's clothing in a dumpster. There is also footage of him buying 2 bottles of bleach and liquid plumber on 2 separate trips. The basement reeked of bleach, an attempt to hide the evidence, but nothing could erase the truth. This wasn't random. This was premeditated, calculated, meticulous, and, of course, evil. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was a hunt. At trial, Wood showed no remorse. None. Wood's trial began October 30th, 2017, and prosecutors intended to seek the death penalty. Craig Wood's defense team claimed he had been high on meth and alcohol, that it wasn't planned, that it was the result of a man spiraling out of control. But the evidence said otherwise. On November 2, 2017, the jury found Craig Wood guilty of first-degree murder but could not agree on a unanimous verdict for the death penalty for Wood, leaving the judge to decide on the sentence. On January 11, 2018, Judge Thomas Mountjoy sentenced Craig Wood to death by lethal injection. Despite opposing the state's decision to seek the death penalty rather than accepting Wood's plea deal for life without parole, Hailey's mother, Stacey Herman, expressed support for Wood's death sentence after the trial, stating that Wood got what he deserved. But even as one monster was brought to justice, another secret began to unravel. Just one day after the 3-year anniversary of Hailey Owens' tragic death, her stepfather was indicted on child pornography charges. 38-year-old Jeffrey Barfield was charged with the sexual exploitation of minors. A federal grand jury indicted him on Wednesday, February 15, 2017. Court records were unsealed, accusing Barfield of receiving and distributing child pornography over a 5-year period. The man who stood beside her mother on national news pleading for her safe return was later convicted of possessing child pornography. 2 predators in Hailey's orbit, and no one had seen it coming. Springfield mourned for Hailey. Candlelight vigils filled the streets. Purple, Hailey's favorite color, lit up homes, schools, and bridges. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. And the house where she died, it was torn down, replaced with a quiet memorial garden, a place of peace where evil once stood. Hailey's legacy didn't end there. Her death exposed a flaw in the Amber Alert system, a delay in issuing alerts due to clunky communication between police and the State Highway Patrol. Her family, backed by the community, fought for change, and in 2019, Hailey's Law was signed in Missouri, a bill ensuring Amber Alerts could be issued faster, more efficiently, and directly by law enforcement, so that no child would be left waiting. Hailey's Law tightened Amber Alerts, but her real legacy? A warning to every parent. Evil doesn't always hide in the dark. Sometimes it smiles at you in the pickup line. Hailey Owens should have grown up, gone to middle school, fallen in love, started a life. Instead, she became a symbol, of pain, of justice, of a broken system that was forced to change. Her voice was silenced, but her story still echoes through legislation, through memorials, and through every parent who now watches just a little more closely. In Springfield, Hailey's memory lives on, in a renamed park, in tighter laws, and in the unshakable fear that monsters walk among us. And next time, it could be any town, any child, any afternoon. But the real question isn't just about what happened, it is why. Craig Wood later admitted he was high on meth, not just that day, but in the days leading up to the crime. He said he was wound up, unable to sleep, his brain racing. Meth is no ordinary drug. It hijacks the brain's reward system, destroys impulse control, and in chronic users can induce paranoia, hallucinations, even full-blown psychosis. Under its influence, people may act on thoughts they would usually suppress. Boundaries vanish, reason fades, desires, no matter how dark, become commands. Wood's defense later claimed that meth had impaired his ability to think rationally, but as we'll see, that claim doesn't tell the whole story, because what investigators uncovered suggested this wasn't a drug-fueled accident. This was something that had been building for years. In Craig Wood's home, detectives found a horrifying collection. Not weapons, not drugs, but something even more telling. Photos of young girls, yearbook pages, internet downloads, entire folders dedicated to images of minors. Even more chilling, there were handwritten stories, graphic, sexual, and deeply disturbing. They centered on children, young children, often in violent or degrading situations. This wasn't spontaneous, this was planned. Psychologists would call this a paraphilic disorder, a sexual fixation on children, or hebephilia. Combined with isolation, drug use, and long-term fantasy, it can manifest into what experts refer to as compulsive predatory behavior. Craig Wood wasn't just a man who snapped. He was a man who had fantasized about a crime like this and finally acted on it. Despite his claims of drug-induced confusion, Craig Wood's behavior told a different story. After abducting Hailey, he didn't panic, he didn't flee. Instead, he took steps to cover his tracks. He bought bleach, drain cleaner. He wrapped Hailey's body in plastic, placed it in containers, and disposed of her clothing. This wasn't a chaotic spiral. This was methodical. In criminal psychology, this is known as organized offender behavior, premeditated, deliberate, and focused on avoiding detection. It contradicts the idea of a man completely out of control. And most disturbing of all, the very next day, Wood went to work as if nothing had happened. At trial, Craig Wood's lawyers tried to argue that his meth use had destroyed his ability to reason, that he was mentally impaired, not fully in control of his actions, but their argument was incomplete. They didn't bring in any psychiatric experts, no clinical psychologist, no neuropsychologist to testify about the long-term impact of meth on the brain. It was a critical error, because without expert support, the jury didn't see a man overcome by addiction. They saw a predator who planned, executed, and tried to erase a little girl from the world. But years later, legal experts still debate. Could a better psychological defense have changed the outcome? The murder of Hailey Owens wasn't just an act of violence, it was the tragic end result of unchecked obsession, drug-fueled disinhibition, and years of sexual fixation on children. Craig Wood was a man with access to kids, a man who wrote about them, fantasized about them, and finally acted on it. Psychologically, his case is a terrifying reminder of how paraphilic disorders, when combined with substance abuse, can lead to catastrophic consequences. But most of all, it's a reminder of what we lost. Hailey Owens was a bright, beautiful child, a girl who loved school, her friends, and her family. She had dreams, and those dreams were stolen in minutes. Thank you for joining me on this difficult journey into the mind behind this crime. As we reflect on this crime, I urge you, stay aware. Support organizations that protect children from abuse and exploitation. Speak up when something feels off. And remember Hailey. Say her name. Keep her story alive. This was Crime Alley Documentaries. Until the next episode, stay alert, stay safe, stay vigilant. Please leave any theories or comments you might have for us down below. We're really interested to know what you think about this case.